Howdy, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Reseller Niche Podcast. For myself, Mo. How's it going, Russ?
Mo, it's going real good. A little bit of stormy in the south, but we're doing. How about you? What's new out there in the past couple of days?
Not much new. I thought we had a lot to talk about last time, and we could possibly continue on that. Kind of the same vein. We were kind of talking about how things kind of come full circle, and how eBay and Amazon are not necessarily the end all be all. But it kind of goes past that because I know we're talking after about what happens if there was no eBay, Amazon, and there was none before, 20 odd years ago. So what about that? I mean, I feel like we are so dependent on those two kind of behemoths that we wouldn't be able to function without it. So,
it makes it easier, doesn't it? I mean, you do, think back on time. When we talked about this last night, and we're talking about the subject, my first thing was about what if there was no internet and reselling. Well, everything in commodities is reselling.
Yep.
If you have a product, you're reselling it.
That's true.
If you work for Nike, you work for a reseller. Even if they're manufacturing it, they're reselling a good into a new good. So everybody's, reselling's been around for how long?
Since the beginning of time.
Right. So, you think about things like, like when both of us recently, had our listing suspended because of a terms of service or violation or whatever.
Yeah.
eBay calls it. We both kind of went, now what do we do? What would you do if it just because you could lose your Amazon account. You could lose your eBay account.
Just like that. Really easy.
You could be in an area that has a natural disaster and you lose internet service.
Yeah.
So, that's actually, I remember Houston when Ike went through, they didn't have internet. This was, 10 years ago? They didn't have internet for like 3-4 weeks.
Wow. I couldn't imagine that. There's so many things you can't do now without the internet. Before it was kind of like you have the internet, then you can do additional things. Now it's like to start, what's your username and password to log on to your internet? What's your broadband connection info? So
So what would you do? And you look at before times or what are we going to call that? BI, before internet.
Yeah.
Before public internet, before social media 2.0, before all of that, you sold at flea markets, you sold in the newspaper, you sold things at consignment shops.
Yep. You
had garage sales. So it's really, there's no change. Those things are still going on.
I guess this is maybe two questions. One is for people that are frustrated, because I know we were talking last week about frustration with, eBay, Amazon, and what you can do other than using them. Another thing is, like you said, what if we didn't have access to them? For me personally, I think it would be a tough pill to swallow. I think I'm so tuned to just, checking my eBay and my Amazon. As sad as that is, I'm just so used to it. But when I'm looking around, I'm looking at a lot of other sellers, and I'm looking at the ones that are actually being innovative and like going through and doing different things. They're all doing things like, local sales. They're doing things like building their own, infrastructure. Maybe it's a website. Maybe it's something else.
Right. Are we showing, do you have, sorry to interrupt. Are you showing us up live?
I think so. It says live.
I've got the computer on and I'm not seeing a feed.
Let me double check, because I'm not YouTube and I can see it going. I have it
You
on.
can see it on, you can see it on YouTube?
Yeah, I can see it on YouTube, but I see what you're saying because I don't see anybody in the chat yet. So I would ask, but I don't see. Oh wait, there's somebody. I think somebody just jumped on.
Oh, you know what? It'd help if I was on the correct link.
No, no worries.
I'm like the picture's blank. It was that one you tested with last night. So
Yeah. And the funny thing is that actually part of the reason is because when I started this, I was testing out something else. I was watching, what is it? Shane and John. They were talking. Was it reseller therapy? They were talking about Twitch, which is
Twitch,
like
yeah.
I didn't know what it was at all. It was I thought for video games, but they jumped on that and they're actually doing videos on that.
Yep.
So I looked it up yesterday and I was looking up how to stream on both Twitch and YouTube at the same time because I thought it would go well with our topic of, what if you didn't have eBay, Amazon? I guess you could throw YouTube into that,
Yeah.
the most commonly used tools, whatever those are.
You were talking about like local sales, and I tell you, one of the reasons I love local sales is when I came to Savannah, we were at a garage sale and a guy said, if you buy this saw, I'll give you this bench for free. So I said, okay, sure. So Carol's around here somewhere. She will tell you that's not the way the story went. I hem-hauled because this was a church bench. And Carol said, I want that bench. So we ended up doing the deal. I literally sold the saw down the street because the guy said, hey, what'd you pay for that saw? And I said, I told him what I paid, and I said, you give me $10, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Give me $10 more than what I paid. So I did that, and we brought the church bench home, put it downstairs, and sold it the next day for $150.
Nice.
That was $150 cash, and that I took that cash, and that's what I started buying things with. I started buying, and and cash is king. Cash will always be king, and it's just I paid no fees on that. I paid, we all know doing the local deals. But one of the things that doing local deals is it's that human interaction, and you'll start if you're in a town like our size. Oh, so-and-so's got this, so-and-so's got that. So I'm now starting getting to people that hey, call Russ, he buys that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that because I was telling you last week that I haven't done any sourcing, very little sourcing in like 6 weeks, 2 months, except for this week I started. So everything you can see in the background is all done locally. 100% of this, all this mess. Let's see if you can see all of that, all those bins. Let's see if you can do that right there. All of that is done locally, 100%.
Nice.
And I don't.
Now, when you sold some of the furniture or sold some of your items out, did you list them on? Didn't you have some big items you got rid of?
I listed some on eBay, and I did eBay local, and I listed some on Craigslist. Those are the two main things. I didn't really do OfferUp. I probably should have, but I listed. Yeah, and I got a lot of calls on Craigslist actually. Ironically, when we started the furniture house, we started using a lot of Facebook Marketplace. And the coolest thing, I think I told you about this, my wife found this dining room table. I mean, it's huge. It's like, I felt like it weighed like 1,000 pounds. Solid wood, and it came with like 8 chairs. It was like $100. And then we didn't have a truck that was big enough to get it. And then I don't know if this is just I'm rubbing off my wife or something. She's a lot more shrewd than I am. She called the person up and said, you know what? I know we agreed to come pick it up. We don't have a truck though. I think you can drop it to our house. And I'm listening to her say this. I'm like, they're not going to do that. What do you mean?
They're not going to do that, right? Yeah.
They did it.
That's awesome.
They said, they said, you know what? When you show up tomorrow, my husband has a truck. He'll bring it over to your house. You're in the same, within the same 5 miles or something like that. So I was just watching this thing. I was about to cut her off, saying, don't say that. You're gonna end up losing the tape. What? She's like, yeah, they said they're gonna do it. Like, okay. I've
That's
never
awesome.
seen that before ever. I mean, I've seen it where people come to you to sell things, like in tubs or whatever,
Right.
boxes.
Right.
Not
So
furniture.
you've dabbled in some of the local,
Yes.
and you go. Do you think you could be as successful if you did lose eBay, Amazon, OfferUp, Craigslist, if you did lose access to those, do you think you could be as successful?
Not at first,
Not at first.
because, like I said, I haven't done it very much, buying or selling. But I think from buying more, I think I have a gist of how people sell things. Obviously, I've been to flea markets, garage sales. I've bought off Facebook Marketplace now and Craigslist,
Yeah.
a little bit of OfferUp. So, yes, eventually would be the answer. And I think that, to be honest, it'd probably be a good thing for me to try going like a week where I just do that. Like I just either source or try and sell offline. Because I'll give you an example. I always go, I lean back on my old shipping days, but because I remember when we started out, it was probably 2004-ish when I started out with the shipping franchise, and they would come out with this big book, and the big book was shipping codes, shipping pricing, and I remember I said, "What is that?" We have the internet. You have UPS.com and all that, and they said, "Well, not everyone has the internet." So
Right.
2004, you'd think everyone has the internet. No, not everyone has the internet. And also, we have a lot of issues where the internet goes down. The internet goes down for like a day, go down for a week, and you get, I don't even think it was called Comcast back then, but whoever your provider is to come out there, that takes time. That's business lost. So we would have to learn how to do all these shipping labels with these red, blue. I don't know if you remember, overnight was, I think, red, 2-day was blue, and there was an orange was 3-day, I think, or something like that. There are different colors for different things, and we had to learn all of that. And they tested us on it. Like we would
So
go
you had to,
yeah, and you had to
just in
pass
case,
it,
because
otherwise, you couldn't. I don't know what would happen if you didn't pass, but we all passed.
you know, and of course, if we lost internet and we lost, in our current situation, both of them, if we lost internet and lost the ability to sell, yeah, there'd be more things going on because you could at least, like I think Claro said, go to the library and jump on Craigslist.
Yeah.
So, there's that aspect of it. So I kind of want to dial it back and say, like, what are the things we can do if you do? Think of this. Now, I am totally 100% mobile. I do everything on my phone, except except shipping. I have a computer for that. So if I break my phone for that day,
Wow.
yeah, so what's my backup? So I've got a backup tablet, Carol's got a phone. So, you got to think of those type of things too. But one of the things I also thought about, Mo, thinking about this, about the old times, ancient history, back in the 70s, 60s and 70s and stuff. And, there was no such thing as pizza delivery back then. Excuse me, fast food restaurants didn't even have drive-throughs. So you had drive-up restaurants like Sonic does today. Excuse me very much.
Oh, no
I
worries.
apologize. But yet there were things. I remember a guy in a vegetable truck driving around the neighborhood. I remember a guy in a watermelon truck when watermelons came in, driving around the neighborhood. Here in Savannah, they used to walk the streets with their wares. There's pictures of women holding big baskets of crabs, and they would walk down the streets and yelling, crabs for sale. And, that's what you did. You went through. You think of the bazaars, the local markets that you have to do, and a lot of countries in the world still have that. The kiwis down in Mexico type thing. So we've got to think of that sometimes in our new world, that to add that or to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And it's also, you said something real important too about knowing how to buy and knowing how to sell. You've been on Facebook now, you know, that Facebook marketplace. How many times have I sent you stuff and go, look at this?
Yeah.
Oh, and you just, I mean, it's like horrendous. Take a picture, who was it talking, you know, take a picture of the item with a cigarette in your hand and you know, they're next to the baby bed. You know, here, great baby bed.
Yeah.
You know, that type of stupid stuff that you just have to know. So you would excel at going over that because you know how to take pictures, you know how to go. So some of the things we use here on eBay and Amazon would transfer into local sales.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, like, I keep going back to this, the coming full circle, because I mean, if you go to places, any metropolitan area, you've got, you know, farmers markets are huge. Not just flea markets. I guess they're just regular markets. Like, is now they call them farmers markets. But back, I remember when I was in Hong Kong for a little bit. There's a certain area when you walk down the street where you buy all. It's not all knockoff. There's a lot of knockoff items, purses, watches, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's miles long. And this is huge business because it's actually not far from like the big shopping malls. But this is an industry that you would think in a tiny little place where there's no space, in a place like Hong Kong, that wouldn't be around anymore. But it's thriving.
Why do you think that the rest of the world deals? I say the rest of the world. A lot of places in the world, much like Mexico, Europe, still, you know, they have those local markets. Your Asian countries still have those local markets. Why do you think we got away from that?
I think the space in this country is one big thing. Just originally coming from England, I'm coming from a very small area, even though
Right.
London's a big city, but it's very cramped. You know, like a two-street road, it would be considered a highway. Over here, it'd be a dirt road. There's so much space in the U.S. That's what I would think, and maybe Canada too.
You think so? The urban sprawl added to it?
Exactly.
Because then we went to the supermarket, we went to the mall,
Yep.
we went to a strip mall, and then that's because we were programmed, and our society here in America that's where we bought things.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you gotta I mean, like it's funny we talk about how reselling is basically since started at the beginning of time. Every city, every country has its own type. For example, like here you have a lot of garage sales. In places like England, I don't think you really have garage sales because one, you don't really have a lot of garages. So you have car boot sales, which everyone thinks is interesting, but you know, if you've got open fields, you have cars, you've got an industry there. I mean, you know, park a car, open up your trunk, and you're ready to go.
Right.
You know, I mean, like,
You know, that made me think real quick and interject. Do you know the best way in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the best way to sell your car?
no,
If you wanted to sell your car personally, you parked it in a spot where there was you parked it at a parking lot and put for sale on it your phone number.
that makes sense. I mean, we were looking for apartments. I remember our realtor, this is just recently, was saying, you know, the best apartments are at the busiest streets because that's where they put the signs out for.
That's where they put the signs out. So the Crazy Card has a good one. He goes, I know a number of resellers that online makes up less than 10% of their income. That's and John Nevermore says that's my goal. Boy, wouldn't that be, you know, 10%, and then you do the online.
Yeah.
The nice part about that is that's a lot of cash business.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh, bum crack pickers in the house. John.
Bum crack.
Oh, only 391 subscribers. Yeah, we're a little tiny channel. That's okay though. We like it that way.
We're just
We're
And
just ourselves.
yeah, we're just wanting to do content and not worry about.
All the other stuff.
Mo's got a following over in Asia
Yes, I do apparently.
with iTunes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just need to figure
So
out who they are, but yeah.
what, it's another story I came up with was, thinking about the past and how things did, and the thrift store, not the thrift store, the flea market. There was a flea market near us, and it was in an actual drive-in. But the drive-in was the main business. And on Saturday, everybody would drive in, the sellers would drive in. And it just so happened that a friend, a neighbor, one of my best friends growing up, his dad was a reseller
Okay.
of items. And so I would go, they would go to the flea market and sell, and I'd go down with them occasionally. And I remember there was one thing that stood out. He sold a box of jewelry. It was a jewelry box, had all this costume, all this costume jewelry in it. He sold that thing for $50. Now that was back in 1976, 77. So $50 today, I looked it up, is like 260. And he goes, I paid $2 for that. And so he resold. Now I told you about this guy. That man raised 10 kids, and they all went to private high schools, and the spread was pretty tight. Doing reselling what we do today without the internet.
Yeah.
He lived in the same subdivision as everybody else, and had 10 kids in a 3-bedroom house with a basement. So it can be done.
Do you think there's a stigma also? I mean, I know there is, but I'm just asking anyway. Do you think there's a stigma when it comes to not having a, quote unquote normal job position?
There was, even I didn't understand it as a kid. Everybody had a job.
Yeah.
Everybody worked for a company. Very few people in my community back then, and I went to high school of about 2,000 kids. There was no business owners. There was maybe a mom and pop store owner, but they all worked. They all worked for corporations. They all were, we're talking Anheuser-Busch, Ralston Purina. My father worked for the Lutheran organization in St. Louis. So, you just worked, and there was a stigma. It was like, I can remember going up to the kid's house in the summertime, and his dad was there during the day.
Yeah.
I didn't think he could work at first. Your little mind where, I'm 9 years old, and you're like, his dad's not at a job? Wow, that's weird. So
it is odd.
Maybe that's where, it was odd back then.
I mean, I'm wondering if it's because, those types of jobs where you have places where there's, 20, 30,000 people working in one place are kind of disappearing left and right now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about Sears and Kmart. Like our local Sears, they are bulldozing that and turning it into condos. Apparently, that's the plan is. So,
wow.
I'm guessing there's thousands of people that work there that are not going to be. But I think it's becoming more and more, maybe even fashionable to be at home, kind of the laptop lifestyle type thing. But I'm just wondering if eBay and Amazon are going to become like what we thought like of these big companies 20 years ago. So like eBay and Amazon are going to be like the old guard, and you're going to have newer, or like people have their own local game, their own smaller apps, their own other things that are going to be coming up. This is already happening. You look at like Makar, Poshmark.
I think you're dead on. And then if people get their own thing going, and then they do build it up to a local, you can have your own local brand. We're going back to the boutique local brand society anyway. We're going, like you said, we're going back. The jobs aren't there, so we have to do something. And I mean, the jobs are there, but they're not providing lifestyles like we'd
Yeah.
like. I mean, MLMs, if you look at Facebook advertising, MLMs, people are jumping all over multi-level marketing.
Yep.
You know, and some are great, some are, you know, take it for what it's worth. But direct sales, that type of thing, has always been around. Look, Amway, what's the Avon, Mary Kay. You know, those direct sales have always been around and have done real well. So it's just going to be a mix. You know, look how advertising's going. They don't run advertisements on TV anymore.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the only commercial. I don't think we even watch Super Bowl commercials anymore. That was the big one.
Yeah, the Super Bowl. We so in the future, I can see where, you know, people are doing it, and we've seen that with people that are successful at it. What we talked about the other day, BFHO, you know, and they started in the garage. Chris, 10K on the Bay posted a live feed yesterday. I would say people go to YouTube and watch that, because he does talk about some of these very things that, you know, every one of these big resellers on eBay started on their kitchen table.
Yeah. I think eBay was started on a kitchen.
eBay was started. Do you remember what the first thing was that was sold on eBay?
Oh wait, I should know this. I remember reading this article. I've forgotten. I'm blanking on it now though.
Broken laser pointer.
There you go. It's funny how it's broken laser pointer.
It was broken. That was the favorite part about it. It was broken, and of course with YouTube, you know, the first YouTube. Here we are at the zoo.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and those were just a couple of kids. YouTube was just a couple of kids had an idea.
It's funny that I was watching a little bit of if we're going to talk about like social media, people think about podcasting or radio as kind of a new genre or something people are doing more of now, when it's the complete opposite. I mean, radio is, I don't know, it's been around for 150 years or something like that, or
about 100, yeah.
And then, I mean, I had a podcast in 2003. I talked to myself for 3 episodes and gave up. But I mean, that was pre-YouTube, I think. And I mean, it's funny how now, I think it's because of the attention. People have very, very hard time paying attention to one thing. So paying attention and looking at something, that's a hard thing to do. So that's why a lot of these people that are on YouTube or visual social media are moving more towards having an audio version as well. So, I mean,
oh, true. Yeah, when they're having, because you know, we've had comments like that where people say, oh, you know, I listen to you when we're listing, or some people have said they download us and on the drive to wherever. And
yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny.
Bearded Picker, your grandparents set up at a flea market in a drive-in for 30 years. What kind of items did they sell? Was it everyday items? Was it hard to find items? Was it one-offs? You know, that's something to think about too, is the very things. I mean, I love tools, man. When I see a tool at a garage sale, I grab it. That's my local sale right there.
Yeah.
It's an easy one. So hopefully, Bearded Picker, you can jump on, tell us about it. But, you know, we used to go, my father had a classic Lincoln, and we used to go to the thrift stores because, or not thrift, the sales. Glassware, furniture, they bought at yard sales. So, yeah.
Glassware, that's a tough one to sell. I mean, I shouldn't say it's an easy one to find, a hard one to know a lot about and sell well. That's a really good niche to get into.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you seen shelves and shelves of the stuff at like thrift stores? And I mean, I don't know anything about it, brands or types of glass.
glassware, furniture. They bought so basically they were doing what we're doing. They just did it at a, you know, they bought at garage sales and sold at the flea market.
Yeah. Because I remember we used to have, I don't know if they still have this. I go back to when I was a kid in England. They'd have something called a rag and bone man, which is basically like a junk collector. And he would drive around with a big truck, and I think they would yell out rag and bone man or something as they would drive by, and they would just pick up like any of the junk collectors now. Now it's like, I guess, fashionable to, 1-800 junk or whatever.
Right.
But it's the same concept. They pick up,
And he did it for free, didn't he?
Yeah, he did it for free. Obviously, he's scrapping and whatnot, but I mean,
yeah, and they picked it up for free. Do you know now there's one here in Savannah? There was 1-800 Got Junk, but there's a new one. They charge to come pick up your stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that because I remember seeing these commercials, and I think I saw a commercial where like these two guys walk in, and this lady's office is full of cabinets and whatnot, and then she just looks over there, and the stuff disappears and all that. And in my head, I'm thinking that's free, but you're right. I mean,
and they're doing quite well.
Yeah.
And what this guy is doing, a real smart, real nice guy. He's taking most of it and donating it to thrift stores, charities type things, and stuff. But he's just putting it back into this because, hey, where did you send this? I've asked him a couple times. I went down to what thrift store he got it from, and I grab it. I mean, it's just basically a junk haul business to haul it. Yeah, we had in St. Louis, we called them the junk stores. They were on South Broadway. John, over in Nevermore, the South Broadway junk stores used to be the one. I mean, it was just great stuff, antiques, and there was one down south of, flea markets, little places around like that. But you can't pigeonhole yourself. And the reason I say that is when you get into one eBay or just strictly eBay, I think our breed of people, we love the eclectic mix of it, and it just breeds, oh, look at this neat thing. So if you pigeonhole yourself into one area, I think that's where a lot of resellers fail.
I think so too. And adding to that, the way eBay and Amazon are structured now, obviously for-profit, big behemoth businesses. So I think you're seeing a lot of these really successful people come in, maybe it's eBay, maybe it's Amazon, maybe it's, I don't know, Etsy, and they'll figure out what they want to sell on the platform. So they'll kind of use it as a springboard. Like you see that a lot with Amazon, with private label sellers and stuff. But I think you're seeing it more with eBay too, but not necessarily with maybe their own brand, but maybe your own, like you said, maybe you're a junker. Maybe you're into cars and maybe you're into carpets. I don't know. But so it's kind of like a springboard. You've established your own. A lot of people have warehouses and they have their own websites. They kind of just use it. It kind of becomes less and less as their business as those fees kind of add up. And you can see that, if I go locally, I use my own website, I can do something else. So I think that's part of it too.
I think of Pete, Craigslist Hunter. He's got his brick and mortar, and he was showing recently how well his sales were. I think it was in June. He had great sales in June, and he was talking about buying better stuff, selling better stuff, and he also has that brick and mortar. So I'm sure he sells a lot out of that brick and mortar too.
Yeah.
And that's great for him. For me, I don't want a set schedule or a set place to go because I don't want to be physically I can't do those days anymore.
I mean, the thing about the brick and mortar, which everyone, I've been there. I've had different types of brick and mortars. I've had the warehouse. I've had the retail. you've got to know what you're doing. Not just that, you got to know what you're doing that year, that season even, because things move so fast. Because when we started out, the location we're in was a pretty hot location. We got what we thought was good rent, all the whatever, blah blah blah. It was working basically.
Yeah.
Within 2 years, UPS and FedEx.com hit, and they hit hard. And FedEx acquires Kinko's, UPS acquires the mailboxing center. This is all within, I want to say, 48. I mean, yeah, 2 years, I'd say. And then so your business has gone from one thing to another within 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we had a 5-year contract. So, I mean,
So you had 3 years. You had to stay and fight through and struggle and
the thing is, by the end of the 5 years, the first 5 years, it wasn't that bad. But in hindsight, because at the end of the 5 years it was about 2008, give or take. So it was right in the middle of that. So we had to make a huge, is not only that, obviously the economy tanked too.
Right.
So we had to make a huge decision. Do we double down, or do we, shut up, and then do I get a job? What do I do now? So I kind of doubled down, but we went to a different location, which is probably in hindsight not the best thing, only because what ended up happening with shipping prices and like all prices, I should say, is they started getting really, really expensive. So our industry changed 100% to a very localized business to a very online business. And we went from being a place where like a UPS and a FedEx would look to us. The reps would come in, they would bring donuts to us, like coffee and donuts. UPS rep in a full suit in 2003, 4, 5. I knew him by name. He would come in and give us gift cards. We had eBay gift cards. I remember that. One year we were given $100 eBay gift cards. They were coming left and right offering us stuff. I want to say 06, 07, all of a sudden things got quiet. And then by 08, it's like, forget about it. Nothing's happening.
You couldn't even call in for service at that.
Oh, no.
Who? No, I'm sorry, we're not in. So
Exactly.
yeah, the fluidness of keeping your business fluid and innovative is the biggest. So
Yep. And
hey,
then,
quick question for you off topic. Have you caught up with what happened? What the president and the EU commissioner worked out or are working on?
are you talking about Brexit? Are you talking about?
No, not Brexit. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, I think day before yesterday, they got together.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I heard about
We're-
that. I haven't watched the news today though, but
We're talking about going down to zero tariffs on goods between EU and the U.S.
yeah,
I'm kind of excited about that because I know some of our things, some items they pay tariffs on, they
Yes.
have to pay duty on so much that I think it's going to open up. That's going to be better for us resellers.
I think
Or
so.
eBay.
Excuse me. I think so because I was hearing some horror stories about things like Ford and like the hikes and the prices and all that, and
Yeah.
how the shifts they had to do. I don't know if it was Ford or Harley Davidson that instead of making things in the U.S., they'd end up making them in German plants so it wouldn't be tariffed or whatever. So I think I'm with you. I think that obviously, the lower the tariff, the more money the company's going to keep. Less stress on the company, less layoffs, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
But the global shipping program is a great program,
yes.
and you can't because now you're opening up to worldwide shipping.
Yeah.
However, if your item, Jason over at Jason T. Smith, he's the first one that kind of said you can internationally ship yourself.
Mhm.
Look into it. He had classes on that.
Yeah.
If I have stuff going in priority boxes or bags, I'll throw it up on international shipping just as easy. But I know a lot of times people have reached out to me and said, man, can you do something about this price because the tariff's going to be just crazy on this item. So I'm hoping that's going to increase our sales somewhat.
I think that eBay can. Here's the thing about global shipping. I think it can be awesome, and it can be the complete opposite. I'll give you an example. We had an item that we shipped out. I think it was like a kind of like a fragile action figure. It was like 12 inches, but it was made of resin, so it's easily breakable. It was shipped global shipping to, I think, Argentina. It got there, and you can see the tracking along the whole way. But from, I don't know if it was somewhere near Buenos Aires or something like that, there was a message on there saying returned or something like that. But it was after it got into the country. So basically, long story short, it broke, but it broke in Argentina. So I got a message, obviously, hey, I'm returning this. And then when I called global shipping, called eBay, the cool thing about it is that they said, oh, if it was broken from X airport into the, whatever city it was going to in Argentina, we're going to cover it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I was going to wonder that because I've never had any returns on global ship using global shipping. So it's kind of, if it's a carrier's fault, because man, that would be a nightmare.
But I'll give you another story though. We had a pair of slippers that went to Mexico, I think, and global shipping again. And this time they went missing. Now, it was tagged as being shipped to, I think it was Mexico City Airport or something like that, as going to Mexico. But it didn't tag it in Mexico. And then that was it. No more tracking of any kind. So once it got to 2 weeks or whatever it was, got a message, obviously, where's my stuff? I went to the tracking. There's no tracking past the airport. Call eBay, and eBay strictly looks at the tracking. They rely 100% on that tracking. So they told me, unless it shows up within the next, week or whatever, how long this case goes, I'm sorry, you're going to have to refund. We're going to side with the buyer. And I couldn't really argue because if I was him or her, I would have said the same thing. Where's my stuff? I paid for it.
Right.
So that's the good and the bad of. Actually, it might not just be global shipping. It's how eBay does claims in general.
Yeah, I wonder if there's if there's guidelines or if there's policies on that as far as like if that item would have hit Mexico City and been checked in Mexico City, would they have done the same thing as like
they alluded to that? Obviously, talking to eBay customer service is not always black and white. It's vague comments of possibly. They start off with the whole. I'm not trying to knock them or anything, but
no,
there's a lot of general terms used that don't mean.
There's general. There's not. Yeah, well, one will say something, and I've had that too.
I mean, I get the sense that global shipping was great and it still is a good program, but it has to be tweaked because from what I can see, it's a bulk. It's I forget what they call it, but. It's basically centralized shipping. If you're shipping to Florence, Italy on that day, then everything on that day that's going to Florence, Italy is going to be in that pallet. And it all goes together. They get a cheaper rate. It goes on a pallet. That's how they save money. But the problem is when something goes wrong. They either eat it or we eat it, which, it's kind of a dice roll.
It's kind of like the difference between priority mail, sending a package priority and sending it ground, USPS parcel post.
Here's the thing. People seem to think that if you didn't use global shipping, if you use regular shipping, UPS, post office, whatever, FedEx, that wouldn't happen. I'll give you another story. We used to do a lot of shipping to Asia, to Hong Kong, to India. We shipped a letter, just a basic letter. This is not through eBay, through my old store. Just an envelope. Went FedEx Express. Can't go any faster, can't be any better than that. It went to the door of the person in I think it was Mumbai, India, and the they use local delivery people from their wherever their station is, a FedEx station, to
Right.
the house, to the door. A lot. It's very common throughout Asia, Africa, maybe even Europe too. The guy shows up and asks the guy for money. He said, "I'm going to give you this letter if you give me money." I know this because this is what he told the FedEx people. He opened the claim saying, "The delivery guy just asked me for X amount of money. I don't know how much it was, but I'm not going to pay that. Why should I pay him? I already paid for the shipping," which he did.
Right.
And I had to get on the phone and talk to FedEx. FedEx had to call me back because they had to call FedEx India. FedEx India had to call the local depot there. So my point to all this is that it's not necessarily easier if you use, UPS, FedEx, post office as well, or global shipping. These things happen with a
There's
lot.
there's some cultural differences that we have to understand
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. Did you one thing I learned about like South America, have you ever sent anything to Guatemala?
I probably have. I mean, eBay, I'm not sure, maybe, but I've definitely shipped there.
I, I doubt it because if you've shipped there, you've shipped to an individual. I doubt it, Mo, because one, they don't have a mail system. If
Oh,
you've,
okay, okay. I know what you're
yeah,
talking about. I know what you're
right.
talking about.
There's no central mail system there. It has to go through FedEx. It has to go through,
Mhm.
UPS. So to get something into Guatemala is extremely expensive.
Yes.
And because then the person either has to pick it up or that local person, like you said, has to
No,
take it. There's no mailboxes in
no.
Guatemala.
And
Yeah,
the funny thing is, I mean, I don't know if it's funny or not funny, but there's several countries that are in a similar situation than that. Um, like, for example, there's certain countries you can only ship a certain way. I'm going off memory here. This is a couple years back. I think, where was this? I think shipping to, man, I just blanked on the country name. There's a couple of African countries, a couple of Asian, like Middle Eastern countries too. But when you ship to them, you can only ship either using like DHL or post office.
right, right,
They've only partnered with certain carriers. For example, I think Burma, which is I think Myanmar now, literally just opened within the last couple of years to allow, um, I don't know if it was to allow the post office or to allow DHL to ship to them. Before that, you couldn't be done. So I mean,
wow, yeah.
and
So
then
you,
sometimes when you ship to these countries, it's literally like the address is, like shipping to Afghanistan, for example. It will say something like city block this, Kabul city block, and that'll be it. And it's literally going to an office and come to
the
the office and pick it up.
the corner of the oak tree
Ex-
next to the red building. I
It
mean
is,
that used to be the mail service here in the
yeah.
U.S. You could, yeah,
It might sound funny to a lot of people, but there's a lot of places that do not have the mail system in the U.S. is actually not that bad. I mean, compared to a lot of other places, and not that expensive as well. Try
right,
shipping
yeah,
to some of these remote places and see what it costs.
that's good. So,
But
well, Mo, I'm out of I'm out of old man stories to tell on reselling in the past without
yeah, I think that I mean maybe a summation of this whole thing is that there's ways to get around eBay and Amazon. I'm not trying to disparage them in any way, but there's other things you can do. Um,
there. Yeah, there's other things to do. Um, you can go through times where everybody loves it when sales are going on,
yeah,
but if your money's tight or you're waiting for, I mean I've been there, Mo, where if your money's tight, you're waiting for sales, and you're like, oh, we can get a sale. One year for Christmas, um, what Carol and I got each other was we paid the electric bill. That was Merry Christmas, and so there's other ways to do. if your eBay sales are slow and you've tried all the, more listings, or you're having trouble sourcing stuff, take some of your eBay stuff and put it on local.
Yeah.
Put it on post them on your Facebook page and say, hey, I need to get rid of these. Every city now has sale groups on Facebook.
Yeah. And I haven't used it yet, but I've heard that OfferUp now has some kind of a shipping thing for like hard goods. I haven't looked into it, but I heard that.
Facebook now has shipping options.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and with that, if you have a PayPal account, you can do a multi-order ship.
Oh yeah. PayPal has a lot of good options, especially if you make sure your account's verified. And then, then they can see that. They can, they can let you know. Like, I've done a lot of shipping just through PayPal, just when we had the shipping store. And the reason I did that is because it would literally say, ready to ship, don't ship, funding not verified, especially when we're shipping like overseas. And then it would say, okay, ready to ship now, go ahead and do that. Because then, your money's good.
Good. And so, you take your eBay sales slow, your Amazon sales slow, start another platform.
Yeah.
Grocery stores don't have one aisle.
It wouldn't last if they did.
But they wouldn't last. And so hopefully, and I always hesitate when I say stuff like that because I don't want to sound like I'm judgmental. This is something I struggle with because I can focus so much on eBay, and because I really do enjoy eBay much more. I mean, I haven't done anything on Amazon for quite a while now, and when we got back into society, got back into where people live, we talked about it, and I said, well, let's just wait. So I'm so focused on eBay sometimes that I'll forget, oh man, I better put some local sales up. But yeah, so I'm preaching don't want to preach to the choir type thing. I'm there too. It's just kind of a motivating, just hopefully people listening realize that, slow sales can suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing is, I kind of always go back to this also. You don't know what you know until you just kind of open up and look around your local neighborhood, local stores. Walk out there. We're kind of so used to just sit in front of a computer sometimes, or only looking at eBay, only looking at Amazon. We kind of ignore the rest. For example, the reason I found out about Amazon FBA is because I was watching an eBay video, and underneath the eBay video was a big banner that said 1 month free Amazon FBA. And I said, what the heck is Amazon?
What the heck is that? Yeah, click that link and go into the store, find out what people are buying in this area.
Great time to buy right now. Everyone,
great time to buy.
If everyone is having slow sales, then everyone is looking to sell. And that means that you can come in there possibly and buy in bulk, buy at a discount, set yourself up for Q4. Go buy those Halloween costumes, those back to school stuff. Do that kind of stuff right now, and then
buy the ugly sweaters. Buy Halloween costumes. I saw somebody posted a bunch of them the other day on Facebook. I'm like, might be worth going and talking to this person.
The funny thing is that in my area, the estate sales are pretty good, but they're kind of high priced. So I've just been looking to buy in bulk right now. I bought a lot of bulk clothing, a lot of bulk action figures, which is weird. I just kind of fell into them. So once I hit a certain amount of listings to where, just listing a lot isn't helping as much, I'll switch that up. And then, I'll hone down. And then by then it'll be Q4, so things will be better anyway. But just keep yourself busy.
Do you, on the estate sales, you remember talking with Melinda and out in Shreveport, and I've talked with the companies here, And one of the first questions I ask them is, what do you do with the stuff after the sale's over?
Yeah.
Because, man, I haven't hit it here yet, but I'm going to hit a bulk. And it's going to be a bunch of good, cool stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
just by asking that question. So even if that estate sale doesn't have, is pricey, make sure you get your info in front of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, what I always like to do, especially when things are, let's just say you sell a certain thing and that's not working. At estate sales, you'll always see boxes sometimes, especially if you go to older people's estate sales, they've been there 30,
Yeah.
40, 50 years, boxes of stuff. I always like to buy the box, and I've heard other resellers say the same thing. You never know what's in the box. Just price it down. Just say, well, you take $5 for that box, and it could be I like the ones that have metal. I like belt buckles. I like old coins.
Do you know what's in the box? Is it like a mystery box or is it?
No. I'm not talking about a mystery box. But
Okay, gotcha.
Like, for example, I went this morning. I went to an estate sale. I didn't buy it this time though, but only because it was a tiny little thing. Last time when I bought it, it was a box of, this guy was ex-military, he's ex-security guard, I think. It was a bunch of security guard badges, cigarette lighters, pins, badges, metal little coins, and that kind of stuff. So I went in there and I just said, you know what would you take for the whole box? So out of
That's
that,
right. Yeah, you
like
told me.
it was like a $200 lighter in there, and a razor blade, like a chic silver-plated razor set. So
buy that $5-10 box because it's usually, here's one of my recent, that graphic artist.
Nice.
I paid $10 for the box, and I've actually have moved quite a bit.
And that's
cool stuff. Too. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There was a $10 box, and I've kept some of it. So, all right, Mo, we've been at it for an hour.
Yep. We will probably be back next week. If you guys want to catch us, we're at our little tiny Facebook group, Reselling Niche Podcast Facebook group. You can catch Russ at the Roaming Pickers on Instagram and on YouTube also. And so until the next one, have a good one.
Take care.
Bye.